can have everybody take our seats. She's on her way. Yes.
What's your name?
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. I see Ms. Cooper has already dealt with the closed portion, and we'll just get the door closed and we'll get started. Okay, call this meeting to order. I'm going to hold off on the acknowledgement and treaty acknowledgement until the open session. Does any member of council have any disclosure or pecuniary interest on items on today's agenda? Hearing seeing none, I'm going to declare an interest on item 6.3, and I'll do this again in open session. The delegate has an outstanding Ontario Human Rights Tribunal complaint against the town and names me personally, so I'm going to vacate when they make that delegation and turn it over to either Deputy Mayor Crawford or Sterling Lee, Councillor Lee. Moving into closed session, authority to hold a closed meeting. Moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Henry. The council convened to a closed session pursuant to section 239, paragraph 2E of the Municipal Act 2001, as amended, to discuss a matter pertaining to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. Those in favor of going in camera, please vote. That is carried. session. We'll open the doors and we'll reconvene in 2 minutes for the open meeting. Please be seated. Council is back in session. Moving on with our open portion. Let's just start with the opening script. This meeting of Ajax Council is being held in a hybrid meeting format with virtual and in-person participation by members of the public, staff, and council. This meeting is also being live streamed and may be viewed online at ajax.ca/live. A friendly reminder to all participants, please use your microphone at all times for the benefit of those participating in council chambers and joining remotely. Open with the land acknowledgement. I'd like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas, more specifically the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action in acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. Does any member of council have any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing, hearing none, I am going to make one disclosure. I declare an interest on item 6.3, delegation. The delegate has an outstanding Ontario Human Rights Tribunal complaint against the town and names me personally, so I will leave the chair during that delegation and turn it over to Deputy Mayor Crawford. Moving on to the minutes. Moved by Councillor Dyes, second by Councillor Crawford, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on January 29, 2024 be adopted. Question or comments on the minutes? Hearing, seeing none. Those in favor, please vote. That is carried. Moving on to question period. Mr. Clerk, was there any questions submitted electronically?
Mr. Mayor, there are not.
Does any member of the public here have any questions rising on today's agenda? Yes. Please come forward, sir. Please sign in, state your name.
It's Maxim Tarski on behalf of Lidim Developments. Thank you everybody for give us the opportunity to talk about before you. It's in regards to the bylaw you're going to be adopting today. It's a bylaw in regards to community benefit charge. It's a great idea, great bylaw. We have a small tiny comment we'd like to make and for the councillor to consider. This bylaw is done with obviously very noble intentions, but we believe there's a small, not so small consequence that's going to be disproportionately affecting people in most need in town. It's disproportionately going to be affecting purposely built rental construction in town for some time to come. The bylaw proposed 4% levy on all the new construction. And we're not here discussing levies on condo. We're talking specifically about purposely built rental buildings, which is obviously aimed at the most vulnerable parts of the population that cannot afford to buy a house, but they can rent. 4%, it's significant based on a cost of land. And we, right now in a times when every level of government recognize that it's important to actually support the construction of new housing, and that's why even federal government, they introduced elimination of HST. So we believe that in this situation, introducing additional levies is creating another barrier for somebody who would want to start a rental construction in town of Ajax. And the industry itself is going through the crazy times right now with the cost of construction going through the roof, being double for the last few years. And evidently everybody can look around and see that it's not many rental constructions happening. So we believe that introducing additional levy is going to hamper it and unnecessarily push away some of the investors who would want to come and start the new construction in town of Ajax. We are starting our own construction. Everybody knows the building at 310 Kingston will be started this June. So I'm not here talking only on behalf of ourselves. I'm talking about on behalf of everybody who would ever want to come and build a rental building in town of Ajax. So we believe the same way as you have quite a few different exceptions in this bylaw, for example, specifying does not apply for the buildings below 5 stories, we think it would be prudent to have the whole category of purposely built rental excluded from it, because the whole idea is to make it as affordable as possible, and charging additional funds kind of goes against the flow. Anything I'm missing?
And if I can add financial consideration, the delaying of any purpose-built rental project because of feasibility actually hampers the intent of the town and council to collect more money for the residents. So as an example, the 310 Kingston will start paying $1.1 million in property taxes annually. Our other project at 190 Westney would start paying about $4 million in property taxes annually. So if there's an additional bylaw as community benefit that delays the obtaining of financing or feasibility of a project and delayed it by another year, the town actually loses out on more funds coming in through the property taxes revenue as opposed to gaining the 4% of the land value. So this is detrimental, especially when it talks about the purpose-built rentals, which are not market dependent for marketing. They are ready to go as soon as the numbers work. So just something for consideration. We are asking for you to consider exempting purpose-built rentals entirely, along with other considerations already included under Section 7 of exceptions in this bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from members of council? Councillor Henry.
Thank you. Question number one, through the chair, is your rental geared to rent income?
Kingston includes, sorry, the one on 310 Kingston includes 20% affordable housing. The one at 190 Westney includes 5% affordable housing units.
Sorry, which one was 5%?
190 Westney
190 West.
in the Ajax GO station.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I have some questions, but I'm going to ask them to staff because when we were discussing this, I was attending remotely and my feed dropped, so I didn't view the whole thing. Just a couple of questions, I guess, is this to Ms. Romanowski or is this to finance?
Let's see what your question is,
Okay,
Mr.
let's-
Mayor. I don't know what your question
I
is.
guess
So
we've
it might be me, it might be finance. Stev's also here, so we can.
Okay. So in the bylaw, 3.1, community benefit charge may be imposed in respect to the following. And then under Section 7, as was pointed out, the exemptions. So when it says may, it's not in every case. Is that in every case except these specifically listed under bullet 7 for exemptions? Because part of my questions when we dealt with this at committee level were to do with affordability and a credit type system, if any, being considered where, you know, say the land is worth, I don't know, say it's a 3-acre parcel at 2 million acres, 6 million at 4%, 240,000. If there was 240,000 of benefit in the actual building in regard to affordability or other type measures that are a community benefit, that would suffice and this would not be levied on top. That was my comment, so I'm not seeing that reflected under the exemptions. So purpose-built rental, for instance.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your comments. I'll have to look through the bylaw a little bit more specifically with regards to that, as I wasn't the one that prepared it. Staff prepared the bylaw. Mr. McCullough is actually coming down in the chambers if there's any questions. Is he here? Oh, yes, so if there's, maybe Sean can jump up and help us out with that question.
Well, one of the items in here is affordable residential units.
Right.
Which is why I'm asking, so.
Right on G.
So, Mr. McCullough, my question is, so it says that this community benefit charge may be imposed on 3.1, but then there is a list of additional exemptions. So what areas where would this community benefit charge not be imposed?
What areas? So the community benefits charge would be, it's based on the type of development it would not be imposed, so it's not area specific where we're not imposing the charge. But if the unit was affordable and meeting the provincial definition, it would not pay community benefits charge, or if it met any of those other exemptions. So if it was nonprofit housing, if it was less than 5 stories, things of that nature, the charge would not be imposed on those developments.
Oh. Sure, what is it?
Sorry, just to understand, you're saying that if there was Sorry, if there was a unit that had, I don't know, 1,000 units, a building with 1,000 units in it, and 5% had affordable housing under their provincial government and already had a deduction for that, then the CBC would not be applied to that, but it would be applied to the rest of the remainder of the building, correct?
So through the chair to Councillor Henry, that's correct. It would be applied to the remaining units, but the affordable housing units themselves would be exempt from paying the charge, as they would also not pay development charges or parkland dedication as well.
Excellent, thank you for point of clarification.
That was actually one of my next questions, so I'll keep moving along, because before I lost my connection at the last meeting, I was asking about have we looked at a type of credit system? So I understand this is to replace Section 37, community benefit, which we don't have anymore, I get that. However, there's a very real possibility that this community benefit charge may be levied against developments like, for instance, the 190 Westney, where this 4%, if collected, wouldn't be used in that area to benefit that area at all. It would be money we would collect and use somewhere else in town for a different use. Is that accurate?
So to you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Okay. And my issue with that is we have a housing crisis. We need to have these things passed on to be affordable. And this is part of my frustration with both the provincial and federal governments. Nothing that was done through Bill 23 or whichever, or was it Bill 109, that cut development charges makes those savings to the developer be passed on to the end user. There's nothing that's being done with the federal government removing HST and then the provincial government following suit that ensures that those savings are passed on through affordability to the end user. Okay, and I want to make sure here, or what I'm asking here is there a way where if this is something we're going to collect, we can make sure that that is passed on? So instead of taking 4% on this particular example, and using it somewhere else at a later date, which isn't going to benefit the 1,264 new units at this location, that we could use that figure to create a benefit at that location, whether it be through additional affordable units or further affordability. And I think that's where I lost my connection at the last meeting, is when I was asking those questions. What are your thoughts on that, please?
So to you, Mr. Mayor, so when we were developing the community benefits charge strategy, we did investigate looking at options where we could try to use some of the funding to create additional affordable housing units. The challenge that we have here at the town is, and as you know, as we're not the service manager for housing, we didn't have any capital projects directly associated with affordable housing. And in order for us to collect the charge and allocate those funds to affordable housing, we have to have available capital projects in order to use those funding. So we weren't able to use this tool for those affordable housing. Now the province, by giving a lot of those exemptions, have helped incentivize affordable housing units by eliminating those barriers for the affordable units themselves. So when we are, as a municipality, looking for affordable units, there are options to help reduce kind of the charges that would be applied to those. Now, in terms of the other capital projects, though, that are taking place through this project, we prioritize parkland and some other studies that we didn't have in our DC background study, and just a little bit of art. Now, in terms of the parkland, though, in areas where, like the MTSA, where we may not have a lot of parkland going in that area, but we know that land values are probably going to be a lot higher, it would be likely that this charge is going to be used to purchase parkland in those locations where land values are higher, and we as a town are spending more money to purchase that land.
One of the things that we're doing, and we talked a little bit about control earlier, and the reason why I like using the directives for these things is because I feel that gives us that control. We can say exactly what is going to be built on a specific property, and what we see is what we're going to get. And one of the things we're doing is making sure that the amenities are there, grocery stores, daycares, that type of thing, but also amenity space, like outdoor space. We talk about parkland, but we don't qualify like rooftop spaces, for instance, in that category because they're not public. Why are we not looking at, you know, if we're again, I'll use the example given, providing, and I don't know what the X square footage or meters is of that space, but that technically is parkland for those residents. Does that make sense?
So to you, Mr. Mayor, so that is something that when we did update the parkland dedication bylaw, we opened the door that we could, as a municipality, give a credit for what we call privately owned public space.
Right.
So that portion of the bylaw is currently under appeal
Pops.
at the moment. That's right.
The pots.
So that's the easier way. And so, but the province right now is actually doing a background report at the moment where they are investigating criteria to determine what situations where POPs would be credited towards parkland. And a lot of the language also does suggest where they may be looking at those strata parks where they may be located on rooftop amenity space. So we have been in some conversations with the province on that, and we're waiting for the regulation to be released. So that is something that we are expecting coming down the road.
Do you have a timeline on that? Is that months?
We were
years?
expecting it last year. Like everything else, it's been delayed.
I was expecting the regional official plan last year.
Yeah.
Okay. I find that interesting because I'm really hesitant to bring something in that's just going to be a levy that's applied to everything. I tend to agree with the adding of purpose-built rental as an exemption. What would your thoughts be on that?
To you, Mr. Mayor, I think we have to be careful with that. I think there would be nothing in our power to limit, what those rents could be charged in the purpose-built rental. So they could theoretically be a luxury rental, and they may not have to pay for the charge. So there would be challenges that way, and that's the difficulty. I think that's why the province took a clear approach in terms of giving those exemptions where they meet the clear affordable housing definition. Same with once we see what the attainable definition is and some of those other exemptions. I think the province was very systematic in terms of who were getting the exemptions, knowing that it is a risk when you start opening it up to all rental buildings.
That's very interesting that they would be so concerned when they don't do that themselves. That's hypothetical. What's the word? Rhetorical, thank you. Yes. No sarcasm there. Is this time sensitive?
To you, Mr. Mayor, no, it's not.
Is there a reason that this has to be passed before we get that ruling from the province on whether we can use the other types of park or the other types of outdoor spaces as parkland credits or those types of things?
To you, Mr. Mayor, they are somewhat two different things. I know we're collecting for parkland, but really that's to make up what we lost through the Bill 23. When we're waiting for the regulation on the parkland dedication bylaw, that is really just going to potentially reduce the amount of parkland that we're able to collect by providing these exemptions to the parkland dedication or requiring the town to accept parkland in certain situations.
So is there anything that we can do through this to give any type of credit or whatever if through affordability or through other community benefits that are offered on the site that they're collected for?
So through you, Mr. Chair, so the bylaw actually has an in-kind contribution option where the developer, if there is something that is deemed to be an in-kind contribution to the municipality, the developer would not have to provide the CBC as long as council deemed it to be an in-kind contribution. So that's a section that is built into the bylaw itself.
Do you know what that is off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
I'm just looking at the exemptions. Because there's,
Section 9 in the bylaw, Mr. Mayor, in-kind contribution,
there we go.
9.1 to 9.4.
At its discretion, allow land. I just want to be assured that there is some sort of flexibility in this, and it's not just a levy that's going to be charged on every single thing, regardless of circumstance, and that we can use as a incentive to help get some of these things.
Yep.
So who makes the decision whether this levy is charged or not, and whether the exemptions have been met?
So through you, Mr. Chair, so at any time a developer could offer the in-kind contribution. We'd probably have to get a further legal opinion in terms of the affordable housing, whether or not the value of certain items can be, because the intention was that there's items identified in the strategy. So if they were providing additional parkland or art or something, and council deemed that to be an appropriate in-kind contribution, ultimately it'd be council that would be making that decision.
It would be council making
That's
that
right.
decision. So this will come back, even though site plan doesn't come back, this would come back to council.
If there was an intention to collect in-kind contribution,
Okay, that's important. That's important. Part of me feels that this, like, I would like to get those answers before. I would like to defer this, but I'm not gonna do anything just yet since I see a couple others in the speakers list. So I wanna hear what my colleagues have to say first. So thank you for the answer to my questions. Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through the chair. So when we refer to parkland clarification, we're talking about open public space, generally speaking, correct?
so through the chair to Councillor Henry, historically, we would have been referring to open parkland, but as I mentioned, the province opened the door where there is a situation where the town could be required to accept encumbered land or potentially land that is stratified, so it might be up in the air. But that's something we're waiting for that regulation to come forward on in terms of what the criteria is and in what situations the town has to accept that land.
My apologies, prior to recently, that's what parkland referred to was public.
That's right.
Okay, so, and I just want to understand this, like a point of clarification here. Is the reason that this was public land, it was expected to be, is let's say we have Development A here, and there is no school around Development A, and they have to travel over here to get to school. That school might have a park adjacent to it, and therefore the money from Development A could be used for the park that the town owns beside the school. Correct? Is that what it would have been before today, before now?
So through the chair to Councillor Henry, so again, the parkland is a little bit different in terms of we're going to be using money to purchase parkland elsewhere in the town. So historically, we would have, as a development, as a planning group, we would have either accepted land through a development application, or we would have accepted money in lieu of that, where we would buy it up elsewhere in town. Bill 23, of course, reduced our parkland dedication requirements significantly. So some of that shortfall we're actually able to collect through this community benefits charge strategy to help make up some of that shortfall. Now, it won't be nearly as much as we used to collect, but that's kind of how those tools work. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's
does,
historically
actually.
how we've used the tools.
It actually does. Because my understanding, like, well, when we're talking about open space, it's generally, before today, adjacent and public to development for the area, the entire area. Like when we look to the Medallion development and the space around there and what that looks like. So I actually kind of like this bylaw. I like that it's fair to the portion, if I'm understanding you correctly, to the portion that's already been deemed to be quote-unquote affordable. Well, your point was very precise, that we have no control over what a developer can charge for rent. We will never have control over that. So giving a break on that, knowing that they could make up for that break we give them plus more, seems a little unreasonable. So thank you for the clarification on that. Thank you.
Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I find this a little confusing because the government has given purpose-built rentals a complete break on HST in order to speed up development, if I'm not mistaken. But then now we layer it again with a different percentage charge, so therefore slowing development down again. So I viewed this bylaw when it first came forward as a tool in the toolbox kind of thing, like strong mayor powers, that if you needed to have it, you had it there. Am I misunderstanding that it's not a tool, but that it will be an automatic?
So through the mayor to Regional Councillor Crawford. So It would apply to all developments that meet the specified criteria in the bylaw. I think what is different in this situation is historically there was the Section 37 tool, and the province was concerned that that tool was being used unfairly, I guess. It was kind of ad hoc and being used in different methods, whereas they view this tool as a more transparent and equitable tool. So rather than one or two developments paying significant community benefits, it's spread across more high-rise and high-density development. So I think that's the view of the province when they introduced this tool to supplement that previous Section 37.
Yeah, and I feel like this, we were accused of having red tape, but I feel like there's a lot more red tape flying around right now than there's ever been in the past, which is quite frustrating when it comes to wanting to see some development happening in town. But I think that, what we traditionally thought was a parkland in the past, it's not going to be there. Like, it's not the same. We have to consider parkland as part of a larger development. It's happened in Toronto as every condo has a green space. Every condo has a place where you can go barbecue on site. You don't have to go down, 30 floors to go out and do a barbecue or to take your dog for a walk or a dog park. So, like, we really do have to kind of, like, think in the, like, what this looks like now, because everything is going to be different. And I think parkland that's offered within a unit is still parkland, even though it may not be what we define as public space. It's public space to that condo. That's just my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. Councillor Lee, you were next.
Thank you, Chair. At CAP, the CBC was just to be endorsed and forwarded to a future council meeting for approval. Is that today's meeting, or is there still work to be done on this?
Today's meeting.
Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Anything further? Okay. I thank you for all the questions. I'm uncomfortable bringing a tool that I feel is probably going to be applied in most cases when we still have a few outstanding questions, like the POPs, the privately owned public spaces, because I think that's a pretty important tool, or a pretty important piece to this. So I would like to get that information. I am going to move a referral motion, if I can get a seconder, to second by Councilor Tyler Morin, that this be referred back to staff to report back on some of the questions that were asked today. And that, I think, pretty important piece from the provincial government. Councillor Crawford made a good point. These things are happening outside of our municipality. And I really think I'd be more comfortable getting that information before we go ahead and just put this standard extra charge in place for now. So I will leave that. Councillor Tyler Moore, did you want to speak to it?
Very, very briefly, as I often say, Regional Councillor Crawford brought up a question that I was going to ask. And I understand that staff is in a precarious position. You're trying to filter everything's coming from the federal government and the provincial government. But we did say, I'm going to review the meeting, that it was a tool that we could use occasionally. Or, I don't know if I'm paraphrasing, heavily paraphrasing. So that's one of the reasons why. The other thing is, we had a developer stand here today and more or less say the 4% is going to go to the user. It's going to go to the renter. I mean, that's very concerning, because what's supposed to happen is some people are supposed to get a break that really need it. So I'm completely comfortable in getting more information, maybe just confirming some things firmly, and happy to second this motion to defer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further on the deferral motion? Councillor Bauer?
Thank you, Mayor Collier. Just to confirm, is there a timeline on your referral?
Well, that's the problem. When we're talking about getting information from the province,
Okay. If it is an uncertain timeline, how does that impact Ajax?
Mr. Romanowski, what do you feel the timeline will be to get that information back to us? It can come back at a future council meeting. We send a letter to the province and follow up.
Yeah, through the mayor, we could do that. I don't know if we can fix a exact timeline. However, I mean, maybe after consulting with Sean and Stev and figuring out who we need to contact, I could report back to council with the timeline if that's acceptable.
Is that acceptable? Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. Councilor Lee?
Thank you, Chair. Don't support referral. I think what staff has come up with is very much aligned to what other municipalities have come up with. I think it's always within our power to amend the bylaw if something like the POPs comes up that, with given new information, we can always amend our existing bylaws, but I think it's better to have this sooner than later. So I think what staff produced at CAP was pretty thorough, answered a lot of our questions. I would not support referral and would support just going through with it today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anything further? Councilor Bauer? Oops.
Oh.
There you go.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. The second part of my question was by referring or delaying, what is the impact to the town of Ajax?
Well, the impact would be this would not be levied until such time as council passed it.
Mr. McCullough, did you want to add to that?
So through the mayor to Councillor Bauer, yeah, the mayor's correct. It would just be the charge would not be levied on any building permits that come forward. So if there were developments that met the criteria, we just would not be able to collect the charge against those developments until the bylaw was in place.
Anything further? Okay, on the deferral. That fails. Is there anything, any other motions? Okay, on the motion? Oh,
There is no motion before council at this time.
sorry.
Unless council desires to deal with the bylaw at this time.
I had just brought it forward in my head, and we're just dealing with it now. So, let me find it and let's just deal with it. That is CAP, right? Community Affairs and Planning.
It would be the bylaw that
Oh, it's
is
actually
on the
bylaws.
agenda.
All right, we'll hold up. I'm getting ahead of myself. Happens sometimes. Okay, any other questions from any members of the public? No, hearing, seeing none. Moving on to Delegation 5.1, Durham Region's 2025 Strategic Plan Update. Leslie Ann Folds, Manager Corporate Initiatives, Regional Municipality of Durham, and Andrea Smith, Policy Advisor, Corporate Initiatives, Regional Municipality of Durham. Is this yourself? Okay. I think your presentation is ready. This is a delegation. You have 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you. If I could just ask the clerk to please put the presentation on the screen, please. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, members of council, staff, and residents. My name is Andrea Smith, and I'm here today to provide you with an update on the process to develop Durham Region's 2025 strategic. So work is underway to develop our next strategic plan, and today I will provide you with an overview of the engagement process and the timelines for this work. So Durham Region's strategic plan is the guiding document that outlines how we deliver service excellence through leadership, collaboration, innovation, and environment. The current strategic plan is approaching its end this December 2024. So work is underway to develop the next 2025 strategic plan, and that plan will guide the direction of the work over the next coming years. It will outline how we continue to deliver programs and services and act as a compass to advance our work to achieve the futures that we want to create. There will be many communications distributed in the coming months regarding this project, and we hope that the elected officials from the town of Ajax, staff and residents will take the time to provide input and contribute to the development of the plan. We are excited to share the approach that will be used to develop the next strategic plan. So the principles are data-informed insights, innovative thinking, meaningful engagement, community-oriented scope, and transparent decision-making. This slide provides you with a high-level overview of the timeline to develop the next strategic plan, We are currently in phase 3 of the project. We kicked off the engagement phase with a full-day planning session with Regional Council on January 25th. We have plans to engage the community broadly throughout the month of March. Over the summer, we will draft the plan and bring it back to Regional Council for review and approval prior to the end of 2024, and we aim to go live with the next strategic plan in January 2025. We have a number of engagement activities scheduled over the next coming months. To highlight a few, the community will be invited to complete an online survey that will be launching next Friday, March 1st. I will speak more to this on the next subsequent slides. We have a variety of pop-up events scheduled throughout the region to encourage face-to-face communication and engagement with our residents. Staff from the region will be available to speak with residents on what they would like to see in the future of Durham Region and reflected in the next strategic plan. These events can be posted on, they are posted on our website at durham.ca/stratplan2025 for more information. We also have a presentation scheduled at the Durham Economic Development Task Force quarterly meeting, which is scheduled on March 13th. This is an opportunity where we will be able to engage with the local boards of trade and Chamber of Commerce, and all representatives will be asked to complete the online survey, and they will also be sharing information back with the business community. We have delegations scheduled at all 8 local area municipalities, today being the first. These will go into in the next couple of weeks. And again, the purpose is to raise awareness of the process to develop Durham Region's 2025 strategic plan and to promote our online survey. We also have an art contest for elementary school students and secondary school students, and students will be asked to share their vision of the future of Durham Region. They can submit their original artwork or digital artwork through our website starting on March 1st. Information will be shared through our social media platforms, so please follow us on Twitter, no longer Twitter, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn for ongoing updates. We'll also have paid digital ads to promote the online survey. Additional engagement opportunities will continue until June using the feedback that we received from the online survey and conversations with residents. This will help to inform future workshops and meetings. If you are aware of any events happening in the month of March that would be appropriate for regional staff to attend, please reach out. We're happy to bring forward our promotional materials and engage with residents. So your voice matters. As part of the community engagement efforts, we want to raise awareness and ensure that people have the opportunity to have their say for the future of Durham Region. And last slide. We are inviting residents to provide their thoughts and ideas for what you would like the future of Durham Region to look like and be reflected in the 2025 strategic plan. The online survey opens next Friday, March 1st. It closes on March 31st. And we encourage you to take the time to complete the survey, which it should take about 5 to 10 minutes. There's also an opportunity to win one of 20 prizes. And for more information and to complete the online survey, please visit our website. Again, it's durham.ca/stratplan2025. Thank you very much for allowing me to present today. I'm happy to take any questions that people may have.
Excellent time management. Yeah, 15 seconds left. Thank you. First speaker, Councillor Crawford.
Thank you through your worship. Thank you so much for the briefing. It's been an honor to be a part of the advisory committee at the smaller working group. And I think it was a really good session at Regional Council. I've been through a few of these now, and I thought it was really, really well done. And what really blew my mind was the amount of event-changing things in the world that have happened since COVID. Like, it is unbelievable how much has changed in three and a half years. Well, not quite 3.5 years, but also what we focused on in our last strat plan, it's not even hitting the radar this time. We're completely in a different, well, it's a whole different world now. And so it's been really interesting to be able to be a part of developing the strat plan. So well done, thank you. No question, sorry.
Is there a question?
No question, no question, no question.
This is the section where we have questions to the delegation. Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Mayor Collier, and thank Through the chair, and thank you for your presentation. I did want to ask on page 5 of your presentation, when you speak to focus groups, is that focus groups that are community, or are they focus groups that are council-led?
Through the mayor to councillor, thank you for your question. They will be a combination of both. So the survey, the online survey, and the feedback that we receive from residents will help us to inform any future focus groups, workshops, planning meetings. We also have scheduled internal focus groups with regional staff as well.
And how many of these focus groups will take place, do you know?
Through the mayor to the councillor, to be determined. We will definitely ensure that we have representation from across all of the local area municipalities, and depending on what the results of the survey show, we will then plan our efforts accordingly.
One final question, and I don't know if you'd be able to tell me or not, but when I look at, what page is this? Page 3 of your presentation, I look at data, information, insight, innovative thinking, meaningful engagement, community-oriented, transparent decision-making. Is any of this any different from the last strategic plan? Is there something new on this page that was not being done before that has been decided to do now going forward?
Through the mayor to the councillor, many of these principles are consistent from the previously developed plans. One new approach that we are taking to develop Durham Region's 2025 strategic plan that Regional Councillor Crawford was speaking to, we are taking a strategic foresight methodology and looking into the possible futures that we want to create, and looking at the data and the trends and the signals of what we can anticipate in the coming years. So that data-informed insights is a bit of a nuance and a bit new approach this year.
Excellent. Thank you.
I see no other speakers in the speakers list. Thank you very much for your delegation today.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next item, 6.2, Hospice Whitby. Roger Anderson has project update. Eva Reddy, Board Chair, Hospice Whitby.
Mr. Mayor, they've withdrawn their delegation request.
Oh, okay. I did not get that memo. Thank you. Next, item 6.3, delegation, Black History Month. I'm going to note my interest and vacate the seat. Councillor Crawford, please take over.
Give me 1 second. I'll just do it. No? Yeah. Carrie-Ann Fenn, would you like to come forward? You have 10 minutes as requested. Whenever you're ready.
Can you just activate your microphone, please? Activate your microphone by hitting the button there in the middle.
Press the button.
There you go.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Durham Black Network and the Carrie-Ann Fenn Foundation Board of Directors, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you in recognition of Black History Month, recognizing Black excellence. My name is Carrie-Ann Fenn. I'm the founder and chief executive officer for the Carrie-Ann Fenn Foundation, an award-winning healthcare advocate. I've received the Platinum Jubilee Pin for Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II's 70th anniversary in recognition of my outstanding community service from the federal government of Canada. I'm the Town of Ajax Civic Award winner, Accessibility and Community Service Award recipient. I was honored to lead the quality care during COVID-19 pandemic as chair of the Quality Committee for 2 years. I serve an additional 2 years as vice chair with a total of 5 years on the quality committee and as a trustee for Lakeridge Health, governing the 5 hospitals, Pinewood Center for Addiction, Long-Term Care, and Durham Mental Health Services. I'm honored to be in my 6th year of Health 180 with Carrie and Fenn and Rogers TV, and I'm also one of Dr. Jean Augustine 100 Accomplished Black Canadian Women. We are the Canadian Choice winner in nonprofit organization for AJAX. The Carrie and Fenn Foundation was established to educate, support, and provide resources for those impacted by syringomyelia, Chiari malformation, chronic and rare diseases through a variety of health and wellness programs that are free to the public. We were honored to work with City of Pickering Mayor Kevin Nash, Council, and Karen O'Brien, and community members for our mental health flag raising. We were funded by the Pickering Mayor's Gala. We worked with Ontario Shores, CMHA Durham, CMHA Ontario, Durham Community Health Center, Lakeridge Health, and other organizations to help support the community in mental health. We also hosted our Queen's Park Mental Health Chat, the first chat that's ever happened at Queen's Park in history, to talk about mental health and to encourage more mental health support to the region of Durham. We also have our AJAX Homeless Network, which we work with the community and community organization to help support the homeless community. We provide food, clothing, and for Christmas, we were able to do our gift drive, which we provided 50 bags, which are those bags there, which we call the Gift of Love by Elizabeth Leyland and our organization. So Elizabeth is a person with a disability who's autistic, and she's went to family and organization to get donation. So we put these bags together to help to show the homeless community that they're not alone, they're supported, they're loved, and we care about them, and we wanted them to feel special for Christmas. The Carrie and Fenn Foundation also do a food drive. We've been able to give away over $50,000 in food since July. We met so many people across Durham region, and we focus on AJAX, but we get people that comes from all over. But community members are able to come and pick up whether it's bread, bagel, different items, and I've just been able to connect with an organization which will provide me with a truckload of food, which will go to the public for free. Durham Black Network is a group of Black community members and allies advocating for equity and equality through increased awareness of systemic anti-Black racism. The vision is to create a legacy for future generations where members of the Black community have a sense of belonging that comes with being valued and respected. Known as the father of Black history, Carter G. Woodson holds an outstanding position in early 20th century history. He reached out to schools and general public through establishments of several key organizations and founded Negro History Week. His message was that Blacks should be proud of their heritage, and other Americans should also understand it. His dedication to celebrating the historic contribution of Black people led to establishment of Black History Month, marked in February since 1976. In February 2018, Senator Donald Oliver, the first Black man appointed to the Senate, introduced the motion to recognize contributions of Black Canadians and February as Black History Month. It received unanimous approval and was adopted on March 4th, 2008. In 1995, a motion by the first Black Canadian woman elected to Parliament, Dr. Jean Augustine, was unanimously passed a motion in the House of Commons that proclaimed February as Black History Month in Canada. Why Black History Month is necessary? It's necessary because in the 16th centuries, Africans were captured, brought to the Western world as slaves. They were stripped of their identities, beaten, humiliated, forced into abandonment, abandon their names, title, cultural language, and ceremonies, like most of us Black individuals are faced with in this moment of modern-day slavery, where we're bullied, we are harassed, we are forced to lose position that we hold, and have to stand and suffer in silence. It is necessary now because it's heritage to celebrate a future to build, acknowledging the incredible contribution of Black Canadians have made Canadian society while building an inclusive and equitable Canada. Anti-Black racism, you ask yourself, anti-Blackness, there's two parts to it. It strips Blackness of value. It dehumanizes our value as a human being. It systemically marginalizes Black people, and it happens quite often. It happens right in front of your face. It happens every day, and the people that you expect not to do this are the ones who are doing it. And often it's done in the use of privilege and power to hurt the Black community, and we cannot stand silence and do absolutely nothing. Our Durham Black Network provides two programs. It's the Black Open Mic, which we allow community members or individuals to bring their story, where it's poetry, poems, music, and we get together online virtually. We even have individuals from the UK who joined us to share their story. The last time a lady joined from the UK, and she talked about how her sister died from being exposed to systemic anti-Black racism. And it was heartbreaking to see, because we need to focus as a society on the health impact of racism on the Black community. Through doing the Black Experience Town Hall, we've looked at education, policing, and healthcare. We've looked at research, and we've moved the Black Experience Town Hall to April, an International Health Month, to focus on the health impact of racism. People are going to doctors more often. People are being diagnosed with medical condition that they otherwise would not be diagnosed with, and people are dying. So we have to do something. Silence is complicity. We're inviting community members to purchase one of our Equity and Equality t-shirts and help support our programs, which are free to the public. The shirts are available at www.carionfenn.org. We're asking you as council members, which are key to the growth of our community of Ajax. We're asking you as council to have an open mind, fund programs, look at staffing, reach out to government, both provincial and federal, to support initiatives and programs to encourage equity and equality, because we are not there yet. You are sitting right beside it happening to you. And as a Black woman who's been harassed and bullied and pressured, I've seen other people going through it. You need to protect our community. I came to Ajax when I was 19 years old. I got a lot of firsts in Ajax. My first tattoo, you know, I came with my family. I love this town. My mom said, you do what you can to do others. You don't worry about rewards. Whatever you will get it. And I've seen countless Ajax residents who don't have food, who message us privately because they're ashamed to get food that's available to them. And we make sure that they know, you don't need to have that shame. The food is not something we do, but we have access as a registered charity. And we're making sure that we extend that to the public. You know, a homeless man said to me, he said, Carrion, I'm gonna pray for you. And I have to pray for you.
Ms. Fenn, I'm gonna have to ask you to wrap up.
Yes, and he says, because when you're doing good, evil people will go after you and things will happen to you. And he says, I'm gonna pray for you. We all need to pray for our town of Ajax, and we all need to do what we can to help. Thank you very much for having me here today.
Thank you. We're always open for prayer. Okay, I have one question from Councillor Henry.
Thank you through the chair. Thank you for your presentation today, Ms. Fenn. I do have a couple questions, and first of all, I'd like to say thank you for coming here today.
You're welcome.
Black history is Canadian history, and this month is extremely important. And I'm very happy to see, although not in your presentation, that the province is taking this seriously and implementing education in grades 7, 8, and 10 moving forward. Very important. I'd like to ask you with regards to the award you received from Dr. Jean Augustine. And you said you were 1 of 100, correct?
Yes.
Can I just ask you briefly the criteria for that award?
You have to move mountains. You have to be someone who has a good background in terms of education, giving back to your community, the positions that you're in, what you're doing to champion the image of the Black community and to help your community. So it focuses a lot about who you are as a person, as a human being, and the things you've done, not to help yourself, but the things you've done for others, and to be able to give back to others.
Excellent. Thank you, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I always like to ask that when I meet somebody who's won such a prestigious award. So I would like to ask questions and make a comment with regards to the event at Queen's Park, the mental health event. Now, not really going to one of your events prior to attending that, I have to say, I did not know what to expect. And forgive me, but I thought, this lady's not a doctor, so what's going to happen here? And I will say it was fabulous, very well done. Could you just mention quickly some of the speakers that were on that list?
So the speakers we had...
with regards to medical.
To the medical part of it?
To medical.
We had a pediatrician who spoke about the impact of racism on youths. We had a minister from the opposition, Minister of Health from the opposition, and she was really grateful to recognize, she said she's been there for 10 years and she's never seen a mental health event happen at Queen's Park. We have other medical experts that are in the audience. We had mental health experts. We had personal stories. And we try to have a variety of input. I think that's what makes an event great, because the audience can relate to the speakers, and the speakers can relate and be able to provide support and give feedback. So our events always to educate, support, and provide resources. So within those events, every event, we have about 12 events, they're all customized by myself, and I take a look at data, I take a look at personal story, what the community is going through, and I craft those programs. So I was honored to have my mental health program funded by the Pickering Mayor's Gala, and now we've actually moved to all of our mental health programs now are being rebranded with the Alex Monahan name. So Alex is Mayor Ash's son and Karen O'Brien's son, who died by suicide. My son's grandfather, who lived a couple blocks over, he died by suicide in Ajax here. He was the one who introduced us to Ajax. He hung himself in the closet, and his 13-year-old daughter found him. So Mayor Ash and his wife, we share a passion, and that's why we do it.
I didn't think I know that, so I am so sorry if that brought up any. I can see now why you're following through on that. My question pointedly for health experts that were there, CMHC?
CMHA, there was CMHA Ontario, CMHA Durham, Ontario Shores, Durham Community Health Center, also known as Carrier, Lakeridge Health. So all the major organizations were umbrellaed under the program that I created, and with the full support of Mayor Kevin Ash and his wife, and funded fully by the Pickering Mayor's Gala.
For that particular event.
For
But
that
not
particular event.
Not all of your, through the chair, not all of your, the work you do through your charity is funded. That was for that particular segment only.
That was just for that. Not all of our programs are funded, and we try to get funding throughout to do our program. It's been quite challenging in Ajax, but we're not leaving the community without support. So if we don't have funding for a program, then I will chip in to make sure the program goes, because I've had so many people, young girl who show me their risk and says, I don't want to cut myself anymore. So there are people in our community who are struggling, who needs the support.
So let me ask you this, the program that was at Queen's Park, it was a one-off. Will that be duplicated in the community?
Yes, so I'm proud to announce, we actually just signed the documents with the Mayor's Gala. So we are selected to be funded fully for that program coming up again.
Oh, you are?
Yes, we're going back to Queen's Park.
But will there be something for the public, a version of that publicly?
So we have the mental health chat that we do, which is available to the public. We're focusing on youth mental health. We're going to be doing the mental health forum. So Alex Monahan Mental Health Forum. We're going to be doing the flag raising, and we're looking at sports and mental health. So I'm joining force with Nigel Wilson, former Blue Jay player and Yankee player, to put a sports and mental health program in place to take a different approach to mental health and working with all the major mental health organizations in Durham region.
Thank you, that's what I was getting to. I wanted to know if there would be something, because that was more exclusive, and I wanted to know if there'd be something more attainable for the public that wanted to gain access to that. If anyone was watching this presentation and said, how do I gain access to that information? How do I gain access to that type of help? Where can it be offered? I just wanted to see where you would be offering that. So there is something coming forward publicly.
Yes.
Not
yes.
exclusively. Okay.
Yes.
I do appreciate your presentation. That's all my questions for today, I believe. Let me just check. Yes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention, in your presentation for Black History Month, you had mentioned about funding events. I wanted you to know that Ajax did fund 3 Black History events that are happening this month. They were funded through our Ajax Partnership Fund, and several other grants focusing on the Black community and also the Black entrepreneurs. So Ajax is trying to do our best to support the Black community.
Oh.
Sorry, I have one more question.
Sure.
Yeah, Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Chair Crawford. Thank you for coming today, Ms. Fenn, and thank you for the presentation. Congratulations on all of your awards and accolades. Very impressive.
Thank you.
A shout out for the Durham Black Network. My daughter Emma was a member of the committee for some time.
Yeah.
She very much enjoyed her time and experience there. And I attended a few Black open mic nights, which were very entertaining.
Yes.
My question, you made a comment about the food donations that your organization offers, and I'm sorry if I missed it. Where does that food come from?
So there is a program in place with another organization which is approved. It's all covered through Health Canada, everything like that. So there is an organization which other organizations are registered with, and we're part of the program that lets us know when those food are available. What's happening as well, throughout that program, I've met, individuals that I click with. So, for instance, when I go and get the bread, I don't have to wait to see if I get it or not. I get it anytime I want it. And then someone else connected me with the gentleman who has access to food in his truck. He started this program 2 years ago. So he's willing to provide us with food. And I got a 15-foot truck full of food, like so many items. So we're just making it available to the public.
Very good. Thank you.
You're
That was my
welcome.
question.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
So you said one thing in regards to, I just want to make a statement in regards to that. So so it's okay if I say something quickly?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're doing with mental health, so I've been responsible for quality care. So I've looked at what's impacting quality care and what we need. I was in charge of the mental health organization during COVID-19. So I have a very strong leadership role in mental health from those experiencing. What we're doing with mental health is we've put a face to mental health in Durham region, which is Alex Monahan. And we're working with all the mental health organization to be able to provide that support to our community in an approach where community members are comfortable just seeking the help without getting the stigma and all that stuff. So what we're doing is we're coming together collectively to champion mental health. We don't provide the services, the organization provide the services. So what we've done, especially when we went to Queen's Park, it was an opportunity for us to speak to our MPPs, including Minister Bethan Falvey, about what's going on in terms of mental health and to put mental health in the forefront of Durham region. So it's a collective process, and I'm so happy and honored to have the full support of Mayor Kevin Nash and his wife and the Pickering Mayor's Gala.
Excellent. Please know that Durham Region is also continuing to put a focus on mental health and the need for, some sort of emergency services that is not in an emergency ward. We've been advocating for that for many, many years over this term. So thank you. I do appreciate your presentation.
Thank you for having me.
Can somebody get the mayor?
Thank you, Councillor Crawford. That completes our delegations. Moving on to correspondence. Moved by Councillor Henry. It's not in the room. Who would like to move the correspondence? Councillor Lee. Second by Councillor Tyler Moran, that the report dated February 20th, 2024, containing items of correspondence be received for information. Any polls? No. Hearing, seeing none. Those in favor? That's carried. Moving on to reports, Community Affairs and Planning Committee dated February 5th. Moved by Councillor Bauer, not here. Moved by Councillor Tyler Moran. Second by Councillor Dyes, that the Community Affairs and Planning report dated February 5th, 2024 be adopted. Question or comments? Hearing none, please vote. That is carried. General Government Committee report, moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Tyler Moran, that the General Government Committee report dated February 12th, 2024 be adopted. Questions or comments on GGC? Hearing, seeing none, please vote. That is carried. We have no advisory committee reports. Moving on to departmental reports. 8.4.1 PSA 2024-02 Transitional Funding Update and Related Contract Award. Moved by Councillor Dye, second by Councillor Henry, that Council award the following contracts in the amount of $580,402.94 inclusive of taxes. And then 2, that Council approve additional funding up to the grant value of $1 million to be awarded by staff, meaning it does not have to come back to Council. Questions, comments? None? Those in favor? Please vote. Never spent $1 million so fast. That is carried. Departmental report 8.4.2 PSA 2024-04 underutilized town facilities update. Moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Bowers, not here, second by Councillor Crawford, that the report entitled underutilized town facilities update be received for information. Questions? Councillor Henry.
Thank you, through the chair. I do have a couple questions with regarding this report. So just to clarify, this is just a report at this time, Mr. Mayor?
It's just a report at this time. I don't have anything coming forward.
Nothing coming forward on this. Okay. I did want to ask a couple questions.
Sorry, I don't have anything coming forward today.
Thank you for that point of clarification. So through the chair to Ms. Cusciano, let me just get some questions here. My apologies. When we look at the report and we look at the Sundial community and we look at Station Street, well, I'll start with Station Street, which is across the street. This is our shelter space, our temporary shelter space. When we look at this, and I'm just going to read this one piece and ask a question about this. It's in the report. Discussion, the remaining 4 properties, Hattrick House, Sundial, Sales Pavilion, Mill Street Fire Hall, Central Park Sales Pavilion, have been deemed underutilized, which for the report are those that have been identified as not being required for continuity of current and future town programming or incentives, or otherwise vacant except for short-term lease agreements. Now, when we speak to short-term lease agreements, and we have an agreement currently right now with the region, which 4 of my colleagues here sit on the regional board, my question is, if we were to terminate that, what happens to the folks that are using that facility now? Where do they go?
Thank you for the question. Through the mayor, to Councillor Henry, the lease agreement as it currently is written indicates that the town and the region both have mutual ability to end the lease at any time. As part of that, any transition of individuals that use the shelter space, it would be the region's responsibility to ensure an adequate transition plan, either into transitional housing or other shelter services across the region. That would be what would happen in the event that the town terminated that lease early.
So we brought this project, we brought in the short-term rental agreement because these folks had nowhere to go. Has that changed?
Through the mayor to Councillor Henry.
Actually, just point of order, that's not why we brought that forward. That we worked with the region on creating that space.
Okay, so then let me ask this question. Is that facility constantly filled?
But through the chair, through the mayor, it does have regular usage. I think Michaela provides some regular stats on that. I can get the latest for you.
I believe it was originally supposed to be temporary space over the winter, and then the region decided to extend it throughout the year because of the need, yes.
So Mayor Collier, what is the plan for where those folks would go? And let me finish my question and my comment, because I don't want to become Toronto where we're pushing off to somebody else. So since you sit on the region, is there a plan in place for that?
Well, I haven't asked my questions yet, but those are part of my questions. I have spoken with the region. I've spoken with Stella Danos Costantino. Is that close? Close enough? We all agree that's not the right location for that facility. It's there because that's where the building is that we had that was available for the interim. We all agree that's not the right location. Part of my questions and part of what I'm going to discuss and why I'm not bringing anything today is we need to look at what that looks like, where that building can be relocated. There is a cost in the report of, I think, $400,000, which would be the region's responsibility to relocate it. And we need to be discussing some areas where we have the zoning, where we have the land available, where we could relocate that, if that is something that council decided to do. This also ties in with the report that we discussed earlier about redevelopment of the downtown. So there's more to it than this right today, which is why I want to get those answers before making any motions.
I agree. It's a very fulsome issue. It's not singular to that. I would agree with you on that. And
Through the mayor, sorry, can I add just a few additional thoughts to that? So as the mayor mentioned, there was some initial consideration about moving the actual facility itself and understanding where other sites could be. Staff are in the process. We have a date scheduled where we're going to be driving through Central Ajax to look at, sites that might be, alternative locations. But, as the mayor mentioned, this would be a discussion that would need to be ongoing between staff and the region as the initial lease agreement was intended to only be short-term. It was never intended to be a permanent space. So there is a transition plan that would need to be established, and with the support of the town, we'd hope the region would work towards finding appropriate, transitional supports for anybody that needed it, or relocating the shelter itself.
I would just like to bring up my concern, being that we hear that there's something coming in Whitby, and we think, great, we can close the Ajax facility, folks will move over to Whitby. But my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're only taking in so many people at the initial start. Was it 30 or something small like that?
Through the mayor, I believe it was close to 45 for the first phase.
Yeah, so my concern is I don't want to become what we complain about here at council, which is Toronto giving us homeless. I don't want to be doing that to another municipality. And I want to know what the plan is for that before we talk sale of that land. So I'll leave that for today, but that will be the discussion I will bring forward. Thank you.
I'll just add to that. I don't think anybody wants to be that person in that municipality. I've spoken very clearly at the region on this. Ajax was the first to step up and partner with the region. And then Whitby, the region purchased that land in Whitby, 1635 Dundas. And I've said vocally at the region, all municipalities need to be stepping up and doing their share. This is not an Ajax problem or an Oshawa problem or a Whitby problem. This is a Durham, this is a Canada problem. And we all need to be stepping up, and we can't be NIMBYs and point to others. So that's not the intent of this at all, is to try and, you know, close this down and move those people somewhere else to deal with. The problem, my intent, I can't speak for anybody else, is to find a more suitable location, because that's not it, and have that transition plan before we bring anything to council for discussion. And that's all I have on that. What's your question?
So sorry, if there was something to come before council with regards to the sale of this property, there would be a plan in place, correct? For what's gonna happen afterwards?
I generally don't bring things that I expect to fail. So I'm gonna make sure that anything, if I bring it, is set up so it's something that the council can support.
Okay, and may I, one more question, with regards to the Sundial property, I did forget to ask a question there. That is zoned for a daycare, correct?
Through the mayor to Councillor Henry, that is one of the permitted uses. It is zoned, I'll have to pull up the actual report sorry, just bear with me one moment. It is zoned for open space. So that does include, it does include a daycare. It could also include a library, resource management, refreshment pavilion, recreation facility. That's the current zoning.
And to clarify through the chair to Councillor Henry, it was site-specific. Those typically aren't uses that are permitted in the open space zone, but it was site-specific to that particular property. I have knowledge of that as I was the planner that processed that application in its entirety. So it's site-specific for that. It's not characteristic of the open space zone to have those types of uses.
Thank you for that. I would hope, again, this is just my concern, that if something was brought forward to sell it, it would be keeping with the existing neighborhood. I wouldn't want to see something out of characteristic. Just putting that out there. Thank you.
All with the findings. I have a question about the Mill Streets, as we've already discussed Station Street. So we have a short-term lease, which is up in August of this year for renewal. But looking at the zoned and permitted uses, it doesn't appear that the use of that facility right now fits in the zoning. I wonder if Mr. Romanescu, if you can speak to that. It's currently being used as a distillery and retail sales outlet, which isn't permitted use in the A1A zone.
Yeah, through the chair to Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we worked on the zoning already. It was permitted use. We made that interpretation in planning early on before even entering into those discussions with Durham Distillery. So that was already rectified through planning.
Okay. And these four properties, so if council decided to dispose of these properties, if we had proper plans, everything in place, what would be required to rezone them for highest and best use to be fitting within the communities where they're located? Like Sundial, for instance, to have like-type development in there that is fitting in the community. I would not expect to see high density in that location, for instance. What would be required? Could it just be a directive? Would it be handled through our upcoming official plan review?
Through the mayor to the mayor. Yeah, we could look at it through the OP review or zoning bylaw review. In order to create a bylaw, though, you'd have to have some type of concept to go off of. So that might be something as a next step, if that's something that we're looking at specifically to craft zoning around these particular properties, maybe putting together a concept or two to understand what the highest and best use would be. Being mindful of, as Councillor Henry brought up, the character of the neighborhood and how to fit that in. I can go back and talk with the planning group to see what those steps would actually be.
Well, that's my next question. Is this something that we can do internally? Can we come out with some suggestions on what would be the appropriate uses for these lands?
Through the chair to Mr. Mayor, we could internally come up with a concept. However, we may need consulting dollars to, develop it fully, run it through kind of its paces. What are the pros and cons of certain types of development, access, et cetera, especially if we're going to create a bylaw that's going to create a development proposal and it's specific. So we should be specific as well through our process to get it to that point.
Which is once again why I'm not bringing anything today. We want to look at those things. Finally, just from the business aspect, doing the math based on the high and low appraisal values, we have between $7.35 and $10.95 million worth of property, which operated last year at a loss of $16,786. We're not either not good landlords or not very good business people, I don't know. But this just sort of strengthens my resolve that we shouldn't be in the landlord business. I don't think that's our mandate at the town of Ajax. Is there any other buildings that we have that we lease out on long term other than these properties on a on and again, off again basis?
Through to the mayor, we'll have to confirm. I know there are some, like with some of the sports users, like the that we need to look at. It looks like Director McClarty might have something to add.
Those are permitted on a set basis. I guess Quaker would be one with the Masons.
Yes,
Okay.
Quaker with the Masons would be one.
I don't see the business plan in this, given and this is not a one-year loss. This is consistent losses with or without COVID, and this is not including capital expenses. So I think this is $7.35 to $10.95 million that we could probably make a lot better use of in our capital budgets going forward. I will have a lot more questions moving ahead, but for now, I'm happy with the receipt for information until we can get more information on how to move forward with these. I'll leave that there. Councillor Crawford, I see your hand.
Thank you. Through you, I think that when the tenant for Mill Street went in there, there was a special circumstance, not necessarily that we were bad tenants or whatever.
Bad landlords.
Landlords, or they were bad tenants. I think there were special circumstances around them going in there. My question, though, is around Hartridge House. And it's a weird zoning, agricultural, equestrian. Like, does that tell you how old this place is?
What it tells you is that it's a remnant parcel from a subdivision that was never dealt with because it's limited ability to be developed, potentially.
Good, I like that.
There you go.
So then I would not be seeing high density going in there.
No.
If it was of the will of council.
I don't see how that would be possible on that parcel of land.
Thank you.
No. Okay. I don't see anything further, so on the receipt for information. Please open the voting.
I'm waiting. Oh, there we go.
Okay, that carries. Are there any regional council reports? Councillor Crawford, press your button.
Thank you. Through you to whoever. The Works Department had a great announcement this month, and that is the expansion of the green bin, which will enable residents on July 1st, hopefully, that's the date we've been given, to be able to put pet waste and pet litter, diapers, sanitary napkins, and adult incontinence products in the green bin, because that is all going to be now taken to an anaerobic digester, and hopefully we'll be able to reduce our waste, which is tax savings indirectly to the residents, because otherwise we don't want to have to expand the incinerator. So that is going to be working really well with the report we received with GGC on the pet waste for parks. So really hoping that that'll all combine together. Durham Region Transit, we are very happy to, oh my gosh, where did my notes go? to announce the One Fare program, which was introduced by the province, and which will mean that if you get on a 900 series bus to go into Toronto, you will not have to pay an extra fee. Once you transfer onto the TTC, it is automatically the fee that you would pay and you transfer to go on. So that shows great cost savings. And I think, oh, and Committee of the Whole was an entire meeting talking about affordable housing for the first half and homelessness for the second half. So it too was extremely informational. And the really interesting thing on the second half of COW was that we had two individuals with lived experience come forward talking about the system that is in place currently, what is working, what isn't working, and so I actually found that quite beneficial. Anyway, that's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Lee?
I was just going to speak on the Committee of the Whole. I also thought the presentations on housing and homelessness were incredibly poignant and really important for all the decision makers at that table. So hopefully we all took something away from it and can build towards a better reality. And just on Regional Councillor Crawford's note on transit, I've been very critical of this provincial government, but I think the One Transit system, or the One Pass, is a fantastic opportunity to really encourage transit use, as well as save money and create a more fulsome transit system across the GTHA. So well done to Durham Transit and the province. Thank you, Chair.
Anything further on regional council reports? Any questions on the regional council reports? Hearing, seeing none, moved by Councillor Dye, second by Councillor Lee, that the regional council reports of February 20th, 2024 be received for information. Please vote. That carries. Moving on to business arising from notice of motion endorsing Regional Councillor Crawford to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario Board of Directors, moved by Councillor Tyler Moore and second by Councillor Bauer. Councillor Crawford, are you going to excuse yourself for this, declare an interest on this? Okay. Councillor, that's right. Moved by Councillor, second by Councillor Lee. Councillor Tyler Moore, do you wish to speak to this?
Thank you, Your Worship. For those who might or might not know, the AMO, as we call it, is the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. And in Ontario, there's 444 AJAXs. There's 444 municipalities. And it's quite a thing. It kind of ties in with big city mayors, and there's a lot of discussion, and it's really good for us to have somebody at the table. And Regional Councillor Crawford has represented us well, and going for her second term. So hopefully we can get full support, because it's nice to have somebody at the big table. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Lee? No? Okay. Hearing, seeing none, noting Councillor Crawford's pecuniary interests, please vote.
Please note Councillor Crawford's no vote is due to a conflict.
Thank you. That carries. Moving on to the next business arising from notice of motion, urging that a second national summit to combat anti-Semitism be convened, moved by myself, second by Councillor Tyler Morin. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. It's all in the whereases. We're all aware of the continued issues we're dealing with anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, which is our next motion, and all forms of hate in our community. We speak out against it continuously. We do whatever we can to support, and this motion is just asking the Government of Canada to direct the Special Envoy for Preserving Holocaust Remembrance and Combating Anti-Semitism to convene a second national summit to combat anti-Semitism. This is in result of a letter that we received from Marvin Rotrand, the outgoing National Director of B'nai B'rith League for Human Rights. And I felt it appropriate to bring this forward on behalf of Council. I will leave it there. Councillor Tyler Moore?
Yes, happy to second, and as you've already mentioned, very happy to see the next motion come forward as well. Some people say, why bother? These are nudges. I'm not trying to minimize this, but 1,000 nudges can move a mountain. something I always think of. So I'm glad to see this, and I'm glad we're taking a position on this and the pending next motion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anything further? Nope, time to vote. I will note that carries unanimously. I will note also to the clerk, the agenda as posted does have an error with this motion. It says, again, anti-Semitism where it should be Islamophobia. If you can update that, please. Call for second National Action Summit on Islamophobia, moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Crawford. Councillor Lee?
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to belabor the point. I just think right now, speaking specifically to this motion, there's a lot of misplaced anger and violence, unfortunately, towards our Islamic community. And it's a time when they themselves are feeling degrees of hurt that thankfully those of us privileged right now don't have to experience in terms of just seeing everything in the news and everything going on in the Middle East. I think this is a very good first step this country can take, or I guess it'd be a second step as there was an initial summit. But I think right now, more than ever, we need to condone acts of violence, either here or abroad, and we need to just come together and understand that you know, there's only one human race, and we serve ourselves better by supporting each other as opposed to attacking and reducing very serious issues to sound bites or social media clips. So truly hope the government can step up and help with the healing process, well, as much as they can in the coming months or days. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this world's a mess, and I can't imagine, and nor have I ever experienced watching TV and feeling the pain that people must feel every day. But we can speak out against it in as much control as we have here in Ajax, and this is one step for that. Thank you.
Okay, seeing nothing further in the speaker's box, time to vote, please. And that is carried also unanimously. Moving on to bylaws, and I'm going to separate 12-2024 from 13 and 14. Unless somebody wants to pull 13 and 14 also, which is the Quantum Falls subdivision and the amending the traffic bylaw for no parking, no stopping. No, so let's deal with 13 and 15. 13 and 14, that's a mistake, that should be 14. 12, 13, 14. We didn't pass the motion. I moved a deferral motion which failed. So moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Tyler Moran, that bylaws number 13-2024 and 14-2024 be read a first, second, third time and passed. Questions? No, please vote. And those are carried. I'll use the same mover and seconder if there's no opposition. On the separated bylaw 12-2024, moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Tyler Moore, and that bylaw number 12-2024 be read a first, second, third time and passed. And I'll just speak to it quickly. I just separated because I moved the motion to defer because I don't feel it's ready just now. Staff had said that this is not a time sensitive and we are waiting for more information. So I just separated it so I can vote against it. I'm not going to belabor the point because I'm pretty sure it's probably going to pass. But anybody else wish to speak to it? Councillor Lee?
Procedurally, because Councillor Bauer is not here, if it ties, it doesn't pass, correct? What does that mean in terms of this bylaw?
That is correct, Councillor Lee. Through the chair, if this motion ties, then it would be lost and the bylaw would not be adopted.
And then, sorry, what was that last part?
The bylaw would not be adopted. So it would not be approved by council.
You're going to probably get your deferral after all. Okay, very good. So yeah, I just want to just mention that I think we should support this. I think any changes can be made after the fact with any sort of new information, but I think it's important to have something in place. Thank you, Chair.
Well Well, since you said that, I guess I will speak to it a little bit further. I think we should not support this because I think we're waiting on some more information, and we were told by staff it is not time sensitive, and I would rather get that information before I instill a levy on every development coming forward that doesn't meet the conditions of Section 7. Shh. Call the question. And that carries. I am surprised. That was a questioning look. Confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor Crawford. Oh, sorry. Is there any notice of motion? Notice of motion. Pay attention. Less talking. Pay attention. Any notice of motion? Nope. Any new business or announcements? Councillor Tyler Moore.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oops, sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Marilyn, press yours again. There you go.
Am I stealing your thunder, Regional Councillor Crawford?
Now press it again. There you go.
Okay, so I think I'm on. Yep, on. As a reminder, because we've been pushing this on social media, on Monday, February 26, 2024, our next Ward 1 community meeting, join Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford and myself, Councillor Rob Tyler Moore at McLean Community Center, 6:30 p.m. Save the date, and just come on over. McLean Center, 6:30 p.m. on Monday, February 26. Thank you.
Councillor Crawford.
I just wanted to thank staff, Poonamenter Group and Director Vita for Winterfest yesterday. It was an absolutely outstanding event. The full space of Audley Rec was used inside and outside. There were people there from 11 o'clock straight through, and I think everybody really enjoyed themselves. So please let your staff know how much we appreciate the hard work they did. And I think when we do stuff for the community, we do it well. So thank you.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you. Yes, I too echo that. Had a great time. You will see pictures of me as a snow person. Yes, that was me walking around. I wanted to mention that we have a Ward 2 meeting, Regional Councillor Lee and myself, tomorrow at 7 p.m. at Audley Recreation Center. And I believe we're having donuts, so come on down. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think, sorry, is Director McLarty, the Pan-African flag, that was approved, right? Okay, so one of the first acts of the AJAX Anti-Racism Task Force will be the raising of the Pan-African flag on the 29th of February to kind of conclude Black History Month, so it'll be kind of our first thing. Hopefully everyone can show up. It'll be at 11 a.m., I think at Pat Bailey Square, looking for confirmation. Yes, got it. And that's it. Thank you, Chair.
Second by Councillor Lee, the bylaw number 16-2024 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ajax at its meeting held on February 20th, 2024 be read a first, second, third time and passed. Those in favor? That carries. Finally, moved by Councillor Tyler Moore and second by Councillor Henry, that the February 20th meeting of the Council of the Town of Ajax be adjourned. Please vote. Thank you, everyone.